Hi everyone, this is Dan and this is Thorgal, the Archers. Finally, finally I found it. So, for those of you who kind of remember, Thorgal is probably one of the first French comics, or I shouldn't say French, my bad. I should say bande dessinées, right? It's Jean Van Ham, who is Belgium, and Rosinski, who's Polish. And this book series is fantastic. It's one of the first European books I've ever done on my channel. Absolutely love it. Have currently 4 volumes of this book in English, and I have been searching for this volume of Thorgal for a very long time, and it has been a pain in the ass to get. I don't know what happened, but the only way you could get the Cinebook version of this this story, all of the copies that were online for the longest time were extremely expensive, like stupidly expensive. Like I didn't even understand why they were expensive, because it's not like the Cinebook version of the book is particularly high quality. And for a moment there, I was very tempted to buy the hardcover version of it that was published many years ago, because I believe this story, The Archers, was published as a hardcover with an English translation by a separate company, not Cinebook, a long time ago in the original European, large format. And the only reason why I didn't get that version of the book was because it would make my collection completely inconsistent, and I don't know, but it would drive me nuts. It would drive me freaking nuts to have one book that happens to be completely different than the other books. And then I also wouldn't, because these Cinebook published Cinebook collections contain 2 stories. In this case, this one actually contains Illinois, the other book of this time, in addition to The Archers, which is really the story I'm covering in this video. So, after enormous amounts of struggle, I think, I don't know if Cinebook basically made a new print run or something like that. I think this is a second printing, basically. We finally got new prints of this book. The prices dropped pretty much everywhere, and I think you can finally get this damn book. You can finally freaking get it. Though I say that, and this is 2022, so keep in mind that could change, because having now read both stories, Illinois and The Archers, this is excellent. This is really good, and probably 2 of the more interesting stories in all of Thorgal. Thorgal in general is just excellent writing, excellent art, and I've said it a bunch of times, so I'm not going to repeat the praises. This is a great series. But these 2 stories collected in this volume by Cinebook, Illinois and The Archers, are really good. And I think most people are going to enjoy these stories, regardless of your unless you really are not into fantasy or medieval stuff, then maybe the whole series is not going to be your thing. But for me personally, greatly enjoyed these stories. Everyone in the comments have basically told me The Archers was good. Yeah, you're correct. It was really good. So I'm not going to cover Illinois in this video, just because I feel it deserves its own story. It's very interesting. It's almost like a horror ghost story, and I enjoyed it as well, though it has a different feel to it. I'm just going to go to The Archers, which is the second story in this book. And so, word of warning for the Archers, right? And this is the original cover for it, which is the cover of this book. So Thorgal, I believe around the second or maybe third published book, it begins to just become an ongoing series that you follow. And at that point in time, the assumption is that you kind of already read, the first 2 mainly, the Betrayed Sorceress and, the Elders of Iran and all that kind of those stories beforehand. Because from this point on, it's kind of assumed that you kind of know who Thorgal is and what his background is and what the setting of this book is, right? So they kind of immediately throw you into the action. So just as a word of warning, I would not buy this book straight up. I would instead buy The Betrayed Sorceress, and if you like this book, then by all means collect Thorgal. But it just for the old school American comic fans that tend to be in my comments, This book, is not going to give you the setting and the background a la Jim Shooter style. But that doesn't matter because this story is dope. So you got this tower scene right here. They jump out. I've said it before. I love the coloring in this book. It's very, it's the use of limited color palettes to kind of express mood, which was kind of a very popular thing in the 80s and the older era, right? Back before people had like Photoshop and could just render the shit out of everything. People instead were very efficient with their color use. And this book right here does the same thing. So these people are running away. They've stolen some jewel from this village. And you get a intro right here with this introduction of this woman who's a great archer. And then we are reintroduced to Thorgal, who's out at sea. Basically, for those of you who don't know from the previous book, basically he's out getting groceries for his family. He's kind of left the Viking kingdom and he now lives alone with Aracia and his son Joelin on an island. And he ends up running into this idiot, named what was his name again? Yeah, Jarl the Fiery. Yeah, and he ends up crashing into him in the middle of the ocean. He's kind of a clumsy and empty-headed kind of guy, and he takes him over to his father Treefoot, who's basically a blacksmith who specializes in bows and arrows. So I guess you could call he's a fetcher of a sort, right? And they talk about basically a great archery competition, and with the prize being 10 pieces of silver, which is a big deal because that means that's enough money for Thorgal to go buy a new boat, since this idiot Jarl basically broke his boat while he was at sea, and he needs a boat now to go return to his family. So while he's examining the bows in Treefoot's armory, along comes those two bandits that we met in the beginning, and they're introduced as Chris of Valinor and what was the name of this other dude? Some of these names are kind of hard to pronounce. Sigwald the Burnt, and he ends up after a little bit of old school, like I don't trust you kind of play. They come in basically shopping because they're going to go join that archery competition. And they practice on some targets right here. Chris of Valinor shows off her skill, and Jarl, the empty-headed son of Treefoot, also shows off his skill, which impresses her to a degree. And she walks off, and she immediately gives off the vibe of a very, very devious and cold-hearted and ruthless woman. And Thorgal immediately kind of senses that from her. And Thorgal, being already married, is not necessarily, swayed by her womanly wiles, whereas Jarl, the Fiery, is easily manipulated by her, especially in the early issues. So they head off to go to sort of the king's archery tournament. They run into these bandits, and they find out these bandits had attacked Sigwald and Chris, and they had captured Chris. And they're able in the night to basically go and rescue her. And they find out that she has been handled very poorly by these men. A lot of allusions to what happened to her in this scene. And she enacts her revenge viciously on these men, which kind of bothers Thorgal because she basically, murders a bunch of people in cold blood, and even, ridicules Thorgal for having buried them, which she thought was a waste of time. She felt they should have been left to rot. He ends up disliking her intensely and giving her the business right here, the Sean Connery, which pisses her off to no good. Yeah, you can see why this book probably isn't going to be very popular with modern audiences, but damn, it's freaking good. I was freaking digging this story. I was getting into it. So they end up getting involved in this archery contest, and there's some sort of intrigue back and forth. Turns out Sigwald can't enter the tournament because he got injured in the fight before. So in a twist of things, Thorgal and Chris of Valinor end up having to be partners in this archery contest. And they go at it, and they end up making it basically to the end. A lot of oh man, look at these montage photos here are fantastic. And then they end up basically winning it. And just when they're about to win, Thorgal, at this point being the last person left in the competition with Jarl and Treefoot, ends up basically giving up the competition, because as far as he's concerned, they were all working together anyway. They were all friends, so the money was not going to necessarily go to one person. It was going to get spread out amongst each other, which does not make Chris of Valinor happy, because spoiler alert, she does not like sharing money with anybody. So she ends up running away with the money and basically leaving Thorgal, Jarl, and Treefoot with nothing. So they end up looking for her, and they find Sigwald murdered in a tree. And those people that they stole from the very beginning of the issue have come out to chase them around, and they have kind of trapped her up at Stonehenge up here, and he's able to basically defeat Chris of Valinor, and also convince these other bandits to let her and Jarl go. And he's able to sort of escape by jumping into a river. Very, very old school right there. And Jarl, of course, ends up getting defeated by Chris and her womanly wilds. And they they end up basically losing, multiple bows, swords, a horse. And the only caveat to this entire story is Thorgal was able to save some of the money that he won from the archery tournament by sort of pickpocketing some of it and using the rest to bribe off the barbarians that he ran into. So overall, a very exciting story, and there's a lot of like little small morals involved in this story. There's a lot of these Thorgal stories have a very Grimm's fairy tale, like European feel to them, like the way the story goes and the way the morals are kind of set in here, and very enjoyable. And for the most part, Thorgal does end up a little better than he was, though still doesn't have a boat, but at least he's got money to go get a boat. I think what really I enjoyed the most about it is just the intrigue and the action going on here. It's like there's a lot of stuff going on in this issue, and a lot of plots basically get brought up, and closed, and everything kind of moves really fast in this issue. It's really, really nice, and characters get developed really well. You really get a feel for this Chris of Valinor character, as well as Jarl and Treefoot throughout this story. And you end up kind of it's funny. Obviously the main character is Thorgal, but he ends up basically kind of being a witness to this very fascinating character that John Van Hamme and Rosinski come up with. Which my guess is becomes a very important character, because then her face is like shown off in a whole bunch of other freaking books. So clearly she's around for quite a while. Again, don't spoil it for me, those of you guys who've already read all of these books, just because I only can read and purchase so many of these things at a time, and I'm kind of like catching up to what everybody's been reading for the last 20-30 years. But yeah, this, if you enjoyed the first couple volumes of Thorgal, then absolutely buy The Archers. The Archers is fantastic. This is a really good story. And Illinois is also a really, really good story as well. In general, I haven't really been disappointed by any of the books that I've read with Thorgal. But I can understand why people really liked this book a lot. It's action-packed. There's a lot of really colorful, interesting characters. It's a very fun story, despite some of the darker aspects of it. And I think that's kind of something that's been missing from like a lot of comics and nowadays, is just the fun aspect of it. I really kind of enjoyed the Archers. Some of the Thorgal stories can be pretty dark and pretty grim. But this one, it has some dark points in it, but it really is a very enjoyable read, and you'll have a lot of fun with it for sure. Anyhow, guys, that's the video. Let me know what you think. If you like this video, please hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. If you got any comments on Thorgal, The Archers, leave it down below, and I will see you next time.